There you go. Okay, so what I was saying, what do you make of the Kachucks in? They're going no matter what. And Bill Daly said, if it's not safe, we're not going.
Bro, for starters, my sound system was overwhelmed by the Martin Biron show because it's not Sabres Live. It's the Martin Biron show. But to give you a serious answer, it's what you would expect of a league because if you're the NHL, like any league, frankly, any business, you want to make sure that the thing that you can market the most, being your teams and your players, you're going to be able to do that after the Olympics. So,
Yeah.
yes, you want to make sure everything is safe because if it isn't, someone gets hurt, then you have owners pointing fingers, GMs pointing fingers, players pointing fingers, and it becomes a player safety issue. But if you are the Kachucks, your dad has told you about what it is like playing in these sorts of tournaments, whether it be the Olympics or the World Cup, and that generation of player like a Keith Kachuk, like an Eddie Olczyk, whether they're still in the game as commentators or they have kids who are in the game as players or commentators, whatever the case might be, they grow up hearing these stories about why this stuff mattered. For guys who are in the league now, they all remember watching Vancouver 2010. They remember watching Sochi and TJ Oshie, but to not have that experience, they don't know when they were going to have it. And now that they know they're going to have it, there are some who probably feel it does not matter the circumstance. They're going to play, they're going to be there.
Yeah. Well, it
What
will
was
be
your
interesting to see.
what was your toughest decision when narrowing down Team USA's roster?
Ooh.
It would probably either be the third goalie or the final forwards, just because when it comes to that final forward conversation, Jason Robertson is a fascinating name because when you think about November 5th, when we did our last projection until the one that came out yesterday, other than Nathan McKinnon, no one has scored more goals. He's been in the top two in points the entire time. Jason Robertson has been one of the best players in the NHL. But it goes back to this fundamental question of where and how does he fit into Team USA's scheme? Because Team USA is littered with players who they play this responsible two-way game. They can score, they can do all these things. Like the prototypical Team USA player right now would be someone like Jack Eichel, all the talent in the world, defensive player. Realize the market just said this in, but in all seriousness, like he is that kind of guy that they're looking for, or the Kachucks, or someone like Quinn Hughes, someone who's just very good at everything. And with Jason Robertson, the biggest question, well, there's a couple he faces. One, do you think you can trust him in those defensive situations where you need someone to consistently check? And then the second thing is it is the skating. Yes, it's maybe a little bit more unorthodox in appearance compared to others. It's maybe not the fastest, but it's a fair question to raise because as we saw in the Four Nations, technicality, speed, and skating was everything. It's one of the biggest reasons why we didn't see as much of Adam Fox as people would have thought because Adam Fox thinks the game at an exceptionally fast level. But when you look at the pace of play, you need your quickest players available. So that might be the big one. Whereas if you look at goaltending, it's a fascinating discussion. Jeremy Swayman's having a really strong season, going with the belief that Connor Hellebuck and Jake Ottinger are going to go to the Olympics. But when you look at Spencer Knight, the Blackhawks defense, because it is so young and the structure is so new, they're in the top or bottom three, depending on how you look at it, in terms of allowing the most shots per 60, most shot attempts per 60, scoring chances per 60, and high danger chances per 60. And yet his save percentage is one of the best in the NHL. So those will probably be two of the harder decisions to make.
Well, I think you nailed the goaltending. And obviously, yeah, Spencer Knight is a guy that maybe will have a spot on a future Olympic team for Team USA. But you know, you also have Tage Thompson in the group of forward, but don't have a Buffalo own Patrick Kane in there. Like there's Alex DeBrincat is not in there. Like how hard is it to compare or try to put yourself in Bill Guerin's shoes to be able to make those decisions?
Well, the thing is, you're trying to look at it in that exact way. If you were Bill Guerin or part of the selection committee, what do you look for? And when you look at the profile of that team, you want players who are defensively responsible. You want players that you know can do a lot of different things. You know you want them to score, but for those last few forward roles, you're looking at someone who either fits what you do or if they don't, what is that extra thing that they can provide that's different? So, for example, let's take Tage Thompson. Tage Thompson is someone who, yes, the numbers lately maybe not be what you wanted or what they were earlier in the season, but he gives you 6'6", 220. He gives you size on the edge. If you need him to use him down the middle, you absolutely could. But more importantly, like he gives you that something extra. Now you compare that to like an Alex DeBrincat. Yes, you're talking about a difference in size, but there's a difference in speed. Thompson's a productive player, but as we've seen, when Alex DeBrincat really gets productive, he's about as dangerous as anyone as you're going to find in this league. And so it's really just about, if you're Bill Guerin or anyone on that staff, looking at who do you think, if first of all there's an injury, you feel comfortable with them coming into the lineup as close to a like for like as you can get. But second, if you bring them in and it's maybe not a like for like in one area, do you have an advantage or maybe an emphasis elsewhere that you didn't have before?
Mhm. Oh, Dufford, you're not. You're on mute.
You have Thompson more solidly in the group, period, even though you have him listed as an extra. So has he risen in your mind in the last month?
Who that being, Tage Thompson?
Yeah.
So he this is the thing, is he's very much in that conversation. It's a matter of, I think, evaluating what do you value. And with him, with being 6'6", 220, giving you size on the team that, like, yes, for every Kachuk brother that exists, you do have those players like a Jack Hughes. Like Vincent Trocheck is a physical player, but he's not that physically imposing sort of like physically, like just in terms of his stature, he's very different than someone like a Tage Thompson. And especially when you look on the back end, because as sure we'll get into Canada, yes, Canada loses Alex Pietrangelo, but it has 5 or 6 defensemen that are 6'2" and taller who do a variety of different things. Like Shea Theodore plays a very different style than someone like Travis Sanheim, who plays a very different style than someone like Colton Parayko. But the point is, you're talking 6'2", 6'4", 6'6". Like that's a lot of size right there. And by having someone like a Tage Thompson, it helps you sort of counteract that. And also, they're able to fend off some of those smaller players, or being able to challenge and protect the puck from larger players. So with someone like him, that's what stands out. You know he can score. But again, it's just a matter of, do you think that's the right fit, especially if you're looking for someone who maybe you think is a better two-way option.
Now, to see all the rosters, because you not only put together USA, you put Canada, Sweden, Finland, and Czechia together. It's on ESPN.com. Just do a quick search, Ryan S. Clark, ESPN. You'll see them. So you said Team Canada. I think you nailed it with Celebrini and Bedard. I would have them in my group with Team Canada. But that means you got to put some guys on the side. You left off Wyatt Johnston and Seth Jarvis. Explain yourself.
Sure. So it goes back to that philosophy of, what do you have in your lineup that fits within your system, but what do you have that maybe brings someone different? So the conversation around Macklin Celebrini has been, defensively, he's as good as it gets. We talk about the points, but there are people in this league who say there needs to be a greater discussion about how good Macklin Celebrini is, and there are veterans who feel the exact same way. So he gives you that two-way element that someone like a Jarvis would. Now, yes, Jarvis is a natural winger. Celebrini, you would hypothetically be pushing out to the wing. But at the same time, look at how many players on Canada's roster fit that dynamic. Because Sidney Crosby and Nathan MacKinnon are going to be playing on the wing. Mark Scheifele is probably going to be playing on the wing. But it's something that they can do. Now, when you turn the attention to Wyatt Johnston versus, let's say, Connor Bedard, to put it in that framework, Wyatt Johnston has been as dangerous as can be, as we've talked about with Jason Robertson. It's just that when you look at the season that Connor Bedard is having, I haven't looked at it lately, but at one point he was on pace to have the most points of a Blackhawk player in franchise history not named Dennis Savard. But more importantly, he knows what it means to consistently handle the demands of being a number one center in the NHL. Wyatt Johnson has top 6 experience, no question. There are times where he can fill in as that top line center in Dallas, but when everyone is healthy, you know the option is going to be Roope Hintz, because Roope Hintz is all around as good as it gets. So with Connor Bedard, you're looking at someone who not only understands what it means to be that number one, but he gives you something extra. And that he's not only a scorer, he's a dangerous scorer. He's a technically gifted skater. He can operate in those tight spaces. And those are the sorts of players that, as we saw in the Four Nations, can really make a difference. Because even when we look at how the U.S. did, and we talk about this and that selection decisions, people still question, was leaving Kyle Connor out of the lineup the best idea in a game where you needed goals? And if you can find those players who can score goals, why not bring them? And with someone like Connor Bedard, he would answer that need if you feel that's a priority.
I have so many questions I'd like to ask you, but we are going to be short for time. So one last one. You have one of the lumber yards as a goalie for Team Canada, but it's not Mackenzie Blackwood. It's Scott Wedgwood. Do you feel like there's been too much thought into the third goalie for Team Canada? Because if they get there, they're in big trouble.
There's been a lot of thought into it, but you understand why. Because the way things have gone for Jordan Binnington, it's maybe he gets the benefit of the doubt because he has a history of winning in big games. But also, you look at the season, and what's really jarring is through the first quarter of the year, the Blues are actually one of the stronger defensive teams in the league. Yeah. But the disconnect was with their goaltending. So, how is that going to work once you get to the Olympics? And so, as you know better than anyone, and we all think about 2010, Martin Brodeur is one of the greatest, and for some people, the greatest goalie who ever lived. But when they changed to Roberto Luongo in 2010, that changed everything for Canada. And a lot of people felt that's what won Canada that tournament. So it makes sense that you're looking at who are these second and third options. So yes, on one hand, is it a discussion maybe ad nauseum because it's December and this is a fascinating thing to talk about? Absolutely. But at the same time, it's a fair question because what happens if you need to deviate away from Jordan Binnington? Who do you feel comfortable with? Is it Logan Thompson? Is it Scott Wedgwood? Is it Mackenzie Blackwood? Is it someone else? But also, and yes, we're saying this too, but for a nation that's never really had questions about goaltending, this is the first in a long time where we've sat there and looked at Canada and wondered, what is the plan in net, which is definitely a deviation from what everyone's used to saying.
If not the US or Canada, who wins the tournament?
Sweden. No, the United States.
Okay.
Just for the goaltending, the United States. Because of all the nations that are eligible, the United States, of all the nations that are eligible, if you read between the lines, might have the best goaltending. Now that you said this,
what does your shirt say, Ryan? Why does your shirt say Lille? It's like read the little. Oh, I thought it was French.
No. So it is Little Gino's Pizza. So it's the pizza place from Home Alone where the kid who delivers the pizza goes in and he walks and he hears Angels with Filthy Souls, and the guy who tells him, I'm going to give you to the count of 10 to get your ugly yellow no good keister off my property before I clump your guts full of lead.
And keep the change.
Exactly.
Ryan, thank you for your insight as always. This was great.
Of course, guys. Thanks for having me.